I hope you all enjoyed the Cigna Mindfulness Break podcasts on simple methods to calm both your minds and bodies while sharpening your awareness. Many of you, I'm sure, because there were so many watch parties going on, probably had an opportunity to have a mindful moment with a large group of people. So I hope you enjoyed it. It's now my real sincere pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today's program, Tanya Ange, Chief Administrative Officer of Washington County, Oregon. Tanya Ange is certainly a local government leader who's contributed to moving the needle for women in local government management. She's a role model who helps others to see who they can be through her example and by supporting, encouraging, and developing talented, emerging and mid-career professionals. She is a bold woman who has courageously made bold changes in both her life and career to foster a more inclusive path for other women to advance professionally. With more than 20 years of experience in local governments across 3 different regions in our country, the Midwest, Mountain Plains, and now the West Coast, Tanya's career includes serving in the very early stages of her career as a recreation supervisor in New Brighton, Minnesota, followed by moving up to assistant to the city manager and deputy city manager, chief of staff for Mankato, Minnesota. Prior to her Washington County appointment, Tanya served as the deputy city manager for Boulder, Colorado. And in her current role in Washington County, her first county position, she serves a population of over 600,000 residents with a staff of nearly 2,400 employees and a budget of $1.7 billion. That was a big move up for Tanya. She has also been moved up to a very big role for ICMA. She is currently serving as the ICMA president-elect. She will become the 7th woman president of ICMA in September at the Pittsburgh Annual Conference. Her leadership role with ICMA included serving as Midwest Regional VP from 2013 to 2016. And as if that was not enough of a leadership role for her, she is now serving in her county position as a member of the board for the National Association of County Administrators. Bold woman, bold changes. Please help me in welcoming my friend and my colleague, Tanya Ange.
Thank you, Pat Martell, the esteemed Pat Martell. And as you were speaking, I was like, wow, that's me. And so today I will talk a little bit more about me. And that means the personal side too, because I'm a believer that we bring our whole selves to work and our whole selves to this profession. And so I'm so excited and humbled to be with you today on this virtual forum with leaders who are moving the needle in our communities. As Pat indicated, my name's Tanya Ange. I identify as a professional local government manager, a mother, a wife, colleague, and friend. And we together are moving the needle. My comments today will be about personal and also my professional paths. As was indicated, I do have the privilege of serving as the county administrator for Washington County, Oregon, which is part of the Portland metro region. I will also share that I am the first woman to serve in this capacity in Washington County. I have spent most of my life and career within Minnesota. I grew up in rural Minnesota on a family farm and very involved in 4-H and other activities, serving communities, New Brighton, Mankato, prior to continuing to move west. I don't know how much further west I can move. I may become international soon because that's the only stepping path. I want to credit ICMA in supporting me on this journey. ICMA has a long history supporting women in the profession, like me. SheLeadsGov is a global initiative for ICMA and ICMA affiliates that is aiming to promote gender equity by providing career resources and a platform for women in local government management positions to network with each other, such as we're here today. I would encourage you, while this is virtual, it will be interactive. So please place any questions you may have as we talk together today within the chat. ICMA has dedicated staff support to SheLeadsGov to increase representation of women in the profession, such as this forum today, webinars, Women in Leadership, PM column, and SheLeadsGov has gained global recognition as ICMA's platform to recruit, retain women members, strengthen strategic partnerships, and generate revenue supporting the advancement of gender equity in the profession. With the recognition of ICMA SheLeadsGov program, the ICMA Executive Board has recommended the establishment of SheLeadsGov Committee to serve as a conduit to ICMA staff and the board issues related to women in the profession. This is a bold move and a needed move. This effort will maintain momentum through a pause and partnership with the League of Women in Government as they renew and refresh their scope as an organization that supports the mission of advancing women in local government to gain senior executive leadership roles. The SheLeadsGov Committee will provide support, guidance to ensure ICMA continues to deliver best-in-class gender balance initiatives that produce information, resources, and programs aligned with ICMA and vision strategy to develop talented women and helping them succeed in the profession. This is bold work, and I also want to mention the bold work that has been occurring over the many years. One point in time I want to highlight is in 2012, when Bonnie Svarchak, ICMA past president, convened the Task Force on Women in Government. During this period of time, I had the privilege to serve as the ICMA Midwest Vice President when I was the Deputy City Manager for Mankato, Minnesota. I recall sitting in a board meeting, receiving the task force report, and I thought to myself, I will move that needle and I will help others do so as well. I think I'm following quite well on my commitment to myself and also my commitment to others to help move that needle. Today, I want to share some stories and learning of how I've moved the needle, including my needle to focus on personal resilience. We have a total of 45 minutes together today to have this conversation. So once again, I would encourage you to insert questions or comments within the chat so this can be interactive. Let's start with work-life integration. I don't believe in the concept of work-life balance because I've never been able to find it. And I'll share a story of really when my health and my family changed my perspective. I believe in work-life integration because the communities and organizations we serve operate 24/7. My family has needs 24/7. And I feel we need to continue to challenge that perspective, how we as women can work to feel fulfilled personally and professionally. So let's go back to November of 2010. This was the start of the period that I would start my personal evolution of how I looked at work and life. My father, who was struggling with alcoholism, died suddenly and unexpectedly from a massive heart attack. Due to the stress and the workload that I was already facing, I was immediately placed on emergency bed rest until my daughter was born in January of 2011. This still is an emotional subject for me to talk about because it's when I had to realize that I could not do it all. And I have only one life, and I cannot risk my health to be in service to others, whether it's my community or my family. 3 months later, after my daughter was born, I continued to uphold my decision to leave to Virginia for a 2-week training program. I left my husband, my 3-year-old son, and my newborn, who was solely fed on breast milk, at home. During the training, I was overnighting breast milk so my husband would have supply for my daughter on hand. I was trying to do it all, and I was emotionally and physically exhausted, and I was crumbling inside. It was during this point of reflection that I had to make a choice, because my health and my family were suffering, my relationships were suffering, and I had to put my checklist to the side and refocus. I was so focused at that point in time on all the skills I needed to gain, because I was going to be a city manager. I needed to be an expert in everything. I needed to check all those boxes to be able to feel qualified to apply for a job. When I returned from that professional development trip, I had a conversation with my then city manager, and it was a really heart-to-heart conversation. And I said, I need to slow down. I need to stop trying to do all things. And his response to me was, Tanya, I've been telling you that. And he said, you're something special. Focus on leadership, and you're never going to be able to check all the boxes. And so that's what I did. I completely shifted my perspective to investing in others in the organization, building leaders, then focusing just on management. I ensured to set time away, actually go on vacations, take vacation time because I was maxed out and I was losing vacation, and to integrate so that I could find balance for myself. This was an intentional shift and something that I continue to need to work on each and every day, because I am a goal-oriented person and I like to achieve those goals. But I need my family and my health to guide me through. I made the choice in 2020 to move during the middle of the COVID pandemic from Boulder, Colorado to Washington County, Oregon. I started my position in August of 2020. As the county, we are also the public health authority, and I was immersed quickly in the midst of a pandemic. We were still in the process of selling our home in Boulder, and my husband was traveling back and forth in between this move. Starting as my first time top seat, also overseeing COVID response in the second largest county in the state, in the most diverse county with the most significant health disparities within the state, stepping into that role 2 weeks later to experience wildfires, to also step into a culture that had not had female leadership, not only within the county administrator, but also within the executive leadership team, was a shock to myself and leadership, and challenged my personal resilience. Working from home, starting a new job, my children having no social network, and being immersed in virtual school for a whole year challenged our family's resilience and my personal resilience. And I leaned back on those lessons that I learned in 2010 and 2011. Don't do it all yourself. I leaned on my family. I leaned on the wonderful colleagues here I have at Washington County. I leaned on peers across the county, across the country, who I've had as longtime friends and colleagues, and those that I've come to know just over the last few years. And that's what got me through that challenging time that I still don't think I've completely reflected on. The bold moves that Pat also speaks to is when I started with Washington County, I had 18 direct reports. Within 6 months, restructured to create 4 assistant county administrator positions and start an evolution of modernizing county operations. This was a bold move, coming in, first woman, and pushing change to become a leading edge organization during the time of the pandemic. Through this time, as I shared before, I need to continue to ensure that I'm working on myself. I had lost sight of my workouts and exercise routine because, heck, during the pandemic, the gyms were closed, so I didn't have that outlet. I found my way to a personal trainer who I meet with three days a week now. And I now actually am proud to say I can actually squat my body weight, which is an amazing focus of power and how strong our bodies can be and get us through some of the most challenging times within our lives. Well, all of these kind of stories in my personal journey, I want to share with you because I think as women, it's important to bring our whole selves to work. And that is something that makes us unique within the workplace. And through stories and understanding someone's challenges, how they work through those challenges, we can support others. What I've come to find is this vulnerable, human-centered leadership is an amazing opportunity to excite employees. And we are seeing increased engagement here at Washington County through human-centered leadership, vulnerable leadership, and understanding each other's strengths, stories, as we build a diverse and inclusive workforce that focuses on work-life integration in service to the amazing community that we serve. As Pat indicated, I am thrilled to be stepping into President-elect of ICMA. I've watched the women leaders at ICMA move that needle within our profession, and it's through representation of women and people of color that we'll start to see our profession mirror the communities that we serve, and we'll bring our unique perspectives to this work. I'm just checking chat right quickly to see if there's, oh, we have a 4-H'er. Okay, if there's any questions, please add some questions or some things you would like me to maybe riff on and talk more about. Just scrolling through. Oh, some are individual. So if there's questions, make sure you don't just share them individually. Please do a full group question. So one of the questions that I have received directly was, can you talk a little bit about how you determined you were ready to step into a #1 position? I don't ever feel that I've been truly ready. And that gets to the checking the box. We will never, no one will ever have the boxes all checked. And so it was taking the risk and being comfortable in going through a process and also being told that you're not the right candidate. And those are hard messages to hear. I remember one position I thought I was the right candidate for. And I came home and just sobbed as my husband hugged me. And I said, I was rejected. And he said, no, you weren't rejected. You will be accepted and embraced in the right position at the right time. And so I think it's important to have that resilience and be examining just how we can react sometimes, because it's hard when you don't get that position. And you're looking to make that next step. Also leaning on to, I leaned heavily on city and county managers that I knew to give me some honest feedback. And I started to look at communities, not just from size, population, or maybe the challenges, but aligning with the values, and if the community would align with my values on diversity and inclusion. Another question that I received is, have you ever questioned career advancement and having kids? And the challenges with being a mother and having children? Of course. I question my own time and availability to my children at home and supporting their needs. I think growing up today, our youth are facing challenges that I never had to face. And so it is taking time away from work and telling the team, telling my board, I just need to leave. And one example was 2 months ago, my daughter, who's in middle school, was facing some just friend challenges, and I actually left the board meeting to go be with her. And so that modeling behavior set actually an unexpected tone within the organization, and the board embraced being that family-friendly org, and our board chair even spoke to it at the meeting, which is a really powerful realization of what leadership means at those points in time and where work-life integration comes into place. It's also, I've had to remind myself that communities will exist and had exist long before I came with the organization and will exist a long time after. So we need to be able to do what we can with the time that we have, because we can't create more time. And so I celebrate each of the steps that I've made. I also, with each of my moves to states, Minnesota to Colorado to Oregon, these were also family decisions, and they were hard on each of my kids in differently in the different moves. And I do think that's built personal resilience for each of them, but it's about helping support them as individuals, create their own network and personal resilience, and also me establishing myself within an organization at the same time as well. I will say that's hard too, because when you're a child, you have your friend network, your friends that you've been friends with since kindergarten, and to have to leave them. I'm grateful that my kids have the perspective that we've been able to take adventures. And so we look at life as this is our grand adventure. And so we've had different adventures, places to live, and now we have family and friends that are across the country. I'm scrolling through a couple more questions. One question is, governing boards are critical in supporting work-life integration. Many expect you to be on call at all hours. How do you get your bosses on board to support boundaries for you to have a healthy balance? Oh, that's a great question. Coming to Washington County, part of what I did intentionally within my contract negotiation was to state, I plan to take these X weeks off for vacation. Are you comfortable with that? I then worked with the board chair, and the board does not meet those weeks that I am on vacation. And those weeks are really major school holidays too. We celebrate Christmas, so Christmas break, 4th of July, spring break are the weeks that I take off as standard weeks. And so the board chair and I had talked about how this can be a really big message from the commissioners that we are supporting work-life integration. It's a way to brand the organization, and for the electeds to also have some time off. So that has, I'll say that's gotten sticky within the organization. I also have told my electeds, if you email me, I will respond. So if you want me to take a vacation and not respond, then don't email me or text me while I'm on vacation. And please email or text one of the assistant city managers who's acting in my place. So I have one commissioner who texts me and he said, I don't want a response until you get back. And then I respond. And so now he's learned I'm not going to text her. I'm just going to wait or talk to one of the assistant county administrators. And so it's taken time. to have those conversations, and then also respecting that there are times that they do really need to contact you. It's also being comfortable saying, I'm with my kids, can I call you back in 2 hours? And then there's sometimes I have to tell my family, I need to step away from dinner because I do have to take this emergency. So it's about balancing those and having open communications, both with your governing board and also your family. Looking at the structure within your organization too, and this can happen at any size of org as well. Not just having one person that can step in for you, but multiple individuals to help provide coverage. Oh, from the city of Des Moines. How do you navigate the challenge of modeling these behaviors against our institutions and structures built against that? Fighting people's assumption that your example, a male county administrator, may not have left the meeting for their family. Therefore, the work is more important to him. So as a leader, it's getting comfortable with knowing people are not going to agree with all of your decisions. And I think we all know that within the public sector realm. And so leaning into your values. And my value compass is I want employees to bring their whole self to work. And that means I need to help model that, to give that permission to bring their whole self to work. And if there's such pushback against that, it can be challenging. And there has been pushback, questioning, my 2-week vacation at the end. The previous county administrator didn't take that long of vacation. And I just respond, spending time with my family, taking time away from the job to recharge helps me reset to be able to step into the role. So I think it's through ongoing conversations with employees. How do I do that? I do that through all employee messages, through our newsletter, all staff meetings, and within just directly our CAO department, as well as our through our county leadership team. I have a strong executive leadership team that we have these conversations and talk about how can we continue to evolve our culture, because part of this is inclusivity too. I am cisgender, white female, 2 children, married. That is not the family structure for everyone. There's different family structures. And so welcoming that diversity of family structures, cultures within the workplace is very powerful. And that comes through conversation and understanding what others' individuals' needs are and how do you integrate those needs within the workplace while focusing on public service. City of Lawrence, do you believe in leadership at all levels? What does leadership mean to you? Oh, yes, I do believe in leadership at all levels. And the reason I do is because we've all been at those different levels. And many times our frontline staff are there where the work is happening within our organization, and they're leaders. They're close to the community members that we serve. They're hearing directly of the issues, and they probably have the solutions to some of the wicked challenges that we face. Here at Washington County, we're looking at, over this next year, going to be looking at our training and development, and how do we make sure to have access to training and development, access to leadership at all levels of the organization. That doesn't mean it's a one-size-fits-all approach, because our land use and transportation, maintenance workers are going to have different needs than our housing development specialist. So catering to the individual professions, and also creating what we call a One Washington County mindset. So it's not just looking at a department or a division, but how do you fit into the full ecosystem of services here at Washington County? Because that's how we're going to deliver services. I wouldn't be where I'm at if people didn't believe in me and invest in me along the way. That's coaching, leadership. I remember my first Minnesota City County Management Association conference. And I think there were maybe 5 women in the room. And there was a group, 5 or 6 male city managers. And I was on a intern scholarship to the conference. And they introduced themselves and kind of took me under their wing and welcomed me to that profession and that organization. I so love to see across our profession and state associations the number of women that are there now than compared to when I had initially started. From Jennifer, you touched on work-life integration, but how do you prevent burnout in yourself and your team? Oh, that's a good question. And we are actually struggling with that right now as an executive leadership team. We've joked that we have an organization that there's the land of opportunities, choose your own destination, meaning that we have some challenges within our community with our budget that we need to focus on and work on. But everything is not an emergency. So this last an example is on Monday. We had talked about a new strategic initiative org-wide, and this was one that I was really excited about. And I believe strongly that we need to move forward with it regarding employee engagement. And the feedback from the team is it's too much. I'm worried that we don't have the right staffing model to deliver this program. Departments are going to feel it's one more thing. And so it's listening to the team and in those moments to not push at this point in time, but to put something on the back burner. Also, it can be a challenge with elected officials because they have only, depending on terms, ours have is a 4-year term. So there's only a period of time of 4 years if you're elected to get something done. And they have constituents who are reaching out, asking for that work to occur. Our board, right now, we're working through an actual annual work plan, which is a step deeper than establishing priorities or major initiatives. And part of that is to really show the cadence of work and how much is actually on our boards, not just staff's work plan. And it's really overwhelming for my board right now, but it's having that conversation and stepping into that space of uncomfortableness, putting priorities that you think are the right priorities to the side for other priorities, but getting to that point of clarity helps prevent burnout. It's also understanding yourself and understanding your team and what their needs are as individuals. Yesterday, I had one of my ACAs say, Tanya, are you okay? I'm worried about you this week. There's a different heaviness. And I said, oh, am I showing it? I said, let's talk about it. And so we talked about it with the other assistant county administrators on what was weighing on me. But it's being open to having others come to you and ask you how you're doing, what help you need, and you going to and then vice versa too, and checking out on your team. On a really personal level, the burnout, I go on vacation. Those are priorities for family time, for my family and I. Personally, I love myself an all-inclusive resort where people take care of me and I don't have to think or do for a whole week. And I can just read and be in the pool with my kids, go on walks and running. I also hold very sacred my spiritualness, and also my exercise time at 5 in the morning, Monday through Friday. So that's how I find that balance and prevent burnout. I'm scrolling through. Oh, yes, I'm seeing some comments just on scheduling time on calendars for well-being. How are you able to build work-life integration, being comfortable to take vacations and time off, especially when you're a task-oriented person? It took me 2 years to truly feel comfortable taking vacation here at Washington County. And that was until I felt that I was at a place with the confidence in the board and also with the relationships, structures, and process I had with my new assistant county administrator team. And that wasn't reflective of them, it was me. And one of the powerful feedbacks that I received is the first time I took vacation and I didn't check in for that week, my ACAs and my board said, "We're proud of you." And it was also empowering for them. It's important to remember that when you take a vacation and you truly step away, you are recharging, investing in yourself, and you're also investing in your organization so that they actually can tackle the challenges and without you being there. And sometimes they come up with better solutions than if you were there in the first place too. And so my goal is to leave this place a better place than when I started. And so that means that leaving on vacation, building others to be able to step in, really, it's good business practice. And so for me as a goal task oriented person, that's what's helped me also in the what's in it for the organization too, and what's in it for those, my colleagues that I work with, is it's their time to lead too, and building their own professional development, their confidence, and also the board's comfort level to not just be working just with me on things, but be working with others. It's that shared leadership model. Oh, what's your view on hybrid work schedules? I wish this could be a whole session in and of itself right now. So I'm a believer in hybrid work schedules. We are in the process of bringing more of our staff in within the county administration office, which includes communications, our equity office, economic development, our government relations team as well. We are moving to a 3-2 because we're finding that newer employees, employees who have started in the middle of the pandemic, we need to make sure we're all connecting to our unified mission and vision. And within the workplace, we're community too. And to build community, it's through relationships. So what I've seen and what we felt is some of the myths of those hallway conversations, and how when some are in the office and some are not, there's not the level of relationship being built, consistency and communication. So in our office, we're moving 3-2 across our county. We do have some employees that are full telecommute primarily, but hybrid, we have to have that flexibility. And I think that's one of the things that we've learned well throughout COVID. I would not be able to also practice on a personal level work-life integration without hybrid work. There's times where I need to be home with my kids. I shared my daughter is going through a challenging time in middle school. And right now my husband and I are leaving her home due to that alone. And so that means I have to be home if he's not home after school. And so I may leave the office and go take the rest of the day at home and work from my dining room table. So there's a benefit of modeling that too. So I do believe personally in hybrid, I am finding more of a challenge of full telecommute. Another question, what do we do when we're not in a leadership role? You kind of stumped. I think we're somewhat always in a leadership role. I think that because you lead from where you're at and there's different challenges. So if you're not a supervisor and you're on this call, you still can lead through it from influence. If you're a manager, it's your manager, your supervisor, so you have a formal leadership. But I have seen such significant leaders within our organization who don't have a formal leadership role. So it's about how you show up, leaning into opportunities, saying yes when someone asks, and asking for mentors too. How do you determine how far to push for innovation or change? So one of my ACAs talks about change. She's like, we push and pull it around and talk about it. So I don't think push for change. There's a change continuum. So it is about understanding what is it time for. I typically get the pulse of what is my board ready for, how far can we push change? And then do we have the right team? Do we have the right skill set amongst our team, the right buy-in for the change? And sometimes it is about being brave and being bold with what you're going to pursue. So one of the examples that I will give, one of the actually reasons I was excited about joining Washington County is Washington County has a board equity resolution that fully funds an equity office. And the board resolution was actually co-created between the board and community. And this happened prior to my joining at Washington County. What I did not know when I started is the resolution was part of the co-creation didn't include county staff. And so what was within that resolution, we had staff who felt left out. They felt that the equity efforts and journey that Washington County was on, was it valued? And I was faced with implementing, hiring the county's first equity officer, establishing an office where there was just this disconnect in perceptions. The community, the board pushing for the statements that, and just the inspirational nature of the amazing equity resolution, and with an organization that just wasn't ready and they didn't feel they were called in to the conversation. So when I started, I made some missteps. I made some missteps because I didn't take the time to ask all the questions. And part of that is because I had the direction from the board to do A, B, C with clear timelines, expectations. And so it was through some of that pushback or the slide within the change continuum model that we had to alter some of our strategies and approaches and really shift the conversation to how do we call people in to the conversation in our equity space as employees and work groups were feeling called out and that they weren't in service to the community. And so sometimes how do you determine? Sometimes you make mistakes, and it's being honest with yourself and saying when you made a mistake, and talking with the team too, and how are we going to adjust and how are we going to move forward? I'm incredibly proud of the work we're doing in our equity office, and we will continue to come into that space because equity related work is change management work. It's really looking at our services how we work together, and serving our community so all can succeed.
Tanya, thank you so much for your incredibly candor and just incredible advice about learning how to be self-resilient, to engage in self-care, and recognizing that work is what we do. It's not who we are. We have to integrate work with who we are in our lives. And I think there was one person who said in the chat that they had trouble trying to get work-life balance, and they got a tip from someone who said, "You can't have work-life balance. You can only have life." And somehow work is a piece of life, and you have to manage it. And I think that underscores what you have shared so incredibly openly and vulnerably with all of us today, and has given us so much to think about. Thank you so much for those inspiring words and stories and sharing your journey with our participants today.
Thank you, Pat.
And now it's time to have another relaxing pause in the program by clicking on the mindfulness break in the schedule, and then clicking on Climb Mindfulness Podcast by Cigna. From there, an external link will open to Cigna's Changing Lives by Integrating Mind and Body podcasts, where you can select a podcast of your choice. And as I have watched over the course of the program today, we have had some incredible watch parties going on. We have huge groups from my own state of California. We have 14 different groups that have checked in. Colorado has 7, Texas 8, Florida 6. We've just had an incredible showing today. So I hope you will enjoy in the watch parties a mindfulness moment. Following the break, we're going to come back with Deborah Fuller and Julie Kozak, who will lead the discussion on the impact of oral health on overall health. So join us again at 15 minutes past the hour. Thanks.